Hello everyone, this is Rick. Welcome to another episode of the Vedic Age, and today we will discuss about later Vedic ritual, philosophy and the Upanishads, which are extension of the Vedas. We will go through the different kind of sacrificial rituals, the philosophy of Brahman and Atman, and also what kind of insights we get into spirituality from the Upanishads. So without doing any delay, let's get into details. Significance of the sacrificial rituals. So people in the later Vedic times used to perform different kind of sacrifices in order to get protection or some kind of favors from the divine. Introduction to the centrality of sacrificial rituals in Vedic religion as detailed in the Brahmanas. So, sacrificial rituals were considered to be the central part or the main thing in the later Vedic culture, and that has been detailed in the Brahmanas. The sacrificial ritual was seen as a necessary to regulate life and the world, reflecting the cosmological views of time. So this was a ritual which was necessary to control the universe or to be in a restriction within the universe and also to connect with the divine. So the sacrificial ritual has many purposes other than to simply get favors from the gods. The emphasis on the correct performance of rituals, with the Brahmana text prescribing extensive details for these rites. So all the rituals, all the sacrificial rituals which used to be done in the later Vedic period had different protocols, had different steps to be followed, and all these were written in the text called Brahmanas. These Brahmanas dealt with the rules associated with different kind of sacrificial rituals. The role of deities such as Agni and Varuna in these rituals, representing divine and cosmic principles. So there is role of gods like Agni, who is considered to be the connecting god between the heaven and the earth. So Agni is the transporter of messages. Therefore, Agni had a very important role to play in every kind of sacrificial rituals. The evolution of rituals from simple household offerings to grand state ceremonies involving numerous specialists and assistants. In the later Vedic period, we see that the rituals were not merely a household activity which was a part of daily life of the later Vedic culture, but we find that the rituals were very much elaborate. There were rituals for household activities also, and there were rituals for royal activities also. So we see an evolution of sacrificial rituals in the later Vedic period. Now, Vedic literature on creation and sacrifice. Exploration of creation myths within Vedic literature, particularly the Purusha Sukta hymn of the Rig Veda, book 10. So Purusha Sukta hymn of Rig Veda, in our last video we have discussed that from different parts of the Purush or the Brahman, different castes have been originated. This is a part of later Vedic culture, and thus we get one of the creation myths from the Vedic literature. The metaphorical presentation of the creator god Prajapati and his parallels with sacrificial rituals. So we find representation of Prajapati Brahma, who is the creator, who is considered to be the creator in the later Vedic culture. In Rig Vedic culture, there was no existence of Brahma or Maheshwar, Shiva. It was a proto form of Shiva, which is Rudra, and Brahma did not exist in the Rig Vedic culture. In the later Vedic culture, we find the existence of creator god Prajapati, who is also Prajapati Brahma. The depiction of gods such as Vishwakarman and the artisan-like quality of the divine creation. So Vishwakarma is a very famous Hindu god who is like a expert engineer of heaven. So for the engineering skill we invoke Vishwakarma. Therefore, we get depiction of later Vedic gods like Vishwakarma, and with that we come in touch with the artisan like quality of the divine creation. Interpretation of sacrifice as a fundamental act mirroring the creation of universe. So sacrifice rituals were considered to be a foundational act which mirrors the creation of the universe. The shift from tangible offerings to more abstract philosophical conceptions like that of the Brahman and Atman in the later Vedic text. So we get a shift from mere materialistic offerings to a high philosophical insight into the sacrificial rituals. The Agnihotra sacrifice. This is one of the most famous sacrificial rituals practiced in the later Vedic times. The Agnihotra sacrifice, a central domestic rituals performed by the Dvija or the twice born class. Now the twice born classes are Brahmanas and Kshatriyas. So this was a central domestic ritual performed by the Brahmanas and the Kshatriyas, who are also called Dijas. The description of Agnihotra as a twice daily ritual involving oblations to god Agni. So it is invoking the god Agni, and it is done twice daily. So in the morning and in the evening, every household had the system of Agnihotra sacrifice, mainly performed by the Brahmanas and Kshatriyas in order to praise the god Agni. Involvement of ritual specialist and the role of Yajmana or patron in the ritual. So there were specialists involved, and these specialists were mainly the Brahmanas, and also we find existence of Yajman, who is also the patron, the owner of the household, who used to be involved in the ritual, who used to perform the ritual with the help of ritual specialists like the Brahman. The Dakshina, a crucial part of the ritual, indicating the reciprocal relationship between the patron and the priest. So the patron had to give Dakshina, or a kind of payment, to the priest for their association in the Agnihotra sacrifice, and that played a crucial part of the ritual. The Vajapaya and Ashwamedha were complex rituals associated with kingship and sovereignty. So Vajapaya and Ashwamedha were elaborate sacrifices which used to be performed by a king in order to prove his control over the land and also the sovereignty. The Ashwamedha sacrifice is a very special sacrifice where the king used to let loose a horse, and the horse used to roam freely in whatever places it liked, and whoever objected, whoever captured the horse, was trying to prove that he was against the king, and the king had to go to fight a war against that person who captured the horse. So that was the basis of Ashwamedha sacrifice. The Upanishads, philosophical dialogues. Now what are the Upanishads and what is their importance in the later Vedic culture? Upanishads, as we have said before, that they are the extension of the Vedas, but they are highly philosophical in their thoughts. The definition of the term Upanishads implying a student sitting near a teacher, reflecting the intimate nature of philosophical instruction. So the term Upanishad means that a student will sit near a teacher in order to gain knowledge, and it is the duty of the teacher to prepare the student in such a way that he or she is capable of receiving the knowledge of the universe. The shift from ritualism to a quest for inner knowledge and truth. The Upanishads show us a transition where we get a shift from mere rituals to the realization of inner self and spiritual being. Discussion and debate as a method of teaching in the Upanishads, employing stories, analogies, and paradoxes. Now, this is very interesting that in the religion, in the dharma of Hinduism, which is a very later term, in the dharma of Sanatan, we have the independence or the liberty to question our gods, to question our rituals. So Upanishads focuses on discussion and debates as a method of understanding the real spiritual knowledge. The distinction between the earlier prose Upanishads and later metrical Upanishads with examples like Brihadaranyaka and Chandogya. So, the first Upanishads, the earlier Upanishads, focused on discussions of spirits or discussion of spiritual knowledge with the help of proses, and that kind of examples we get in the Upanishads Brihadaranyaka and Chandogya. The Upanishads focus on core concepts like karma, rebirth, and the underlying reality of Brahman. So here karma means receiving the punishment or blessings of your deeds. So if you have done something good, you will get good feedback in your life. If you have done something bad, you will get bad things happening to you in your life. So karma does not merely mean revenge or anything. It means that you will have an impact of your deeds in your own life. And the concept of rebirth in the dharmic ritual, it is believed that a person, when he or she dies, is getting his soul transferred into a different realm, and again that soul gains another physical body, and thus rebirth happens. So that is the concept of karma and rebirth, and the underlying reality of Brahman we will discuss in our next slides. Atman and Brahman in the Upanishads. Now, what is Atman and what is Brahman in the Upanishads? Here, Brahman, the term Brahman should not be confused with the priest, the Brahmin priest. No, it is not Brahmin priest. And the term Atman is not to be confused with the modern sense of Atman, where Atman is considered to be some kind of ghostly thing. No, it is nothing like that. The introduction to fundamental Upanishadic concepts of Atman, which means self, and Brahman, which means universal essence. So the Upanishads explain the interrelationship between the Atman, which means oneself, and his or her place in the universe, his or her function or role in the universe. The exploration of difficulty in comprehending these concepts as they are beyond empirical knowledge. So it is very difficult to explain the relationship between Atman and Brahman, because it is not merely an entity, it is a thing to experience. Therefore it is very difficult to explain, and that thing has also been told in the Upanishads. Quotes from Upanishads such as the Kena Upanishad and the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad highlighting the ineffable nature of the Brahman. So Brahman is ever existing and all powerful. So in the course of Upanishads we get such a concept or such a theory about the Brahman. The analogy of spider and the wave in the Mundaka Upanishads to explain the relationship between Atman and Brahman. So spider cannot stay without the wave, and a wave does not have any function without the spider. Thus they are all interconnected, and that is the concept, that is the metaphorical example used to explain the relationship between Atman and Brahman, where we find existence of oneself within the complexities of the universe. The Upanishadic rejection of ritualistic orthodoxy in favor of knowledge and realization of Brahman. So the Upanishads do not merely accept all the rituals as it has been prescribed before. So they focus on gaining the spiritual knowledge and realization of being conscious about the functionalities of the universe. Now, reinterpretations of Vedic rituals in the Upanishads. Upanishads have always tried to reinterpret all the rituals which has been written in the four Vedas. Upanishads' inclusion in the Vedic corpus and their reinterpretation of sacrificial rituals. So, sacrificial ritual in the Rig Vedic times, it was merely offering to the gods. But in Upanishad, we find that sacrificial ritual has a great spiritual significance, and that has been reinterpreted in through the philosophy of the Upanishads. The symbolic and allegorical redescription of rituals such as the Ashwamedha Yajna in the Upanishads. So in Upanishads we find the re-explanation of the Ashwamedha sacrifice. The emphasis of knowledge of symbolic meanings over the performance of ritual itself. So the ritual does not play the main part according to the Upanishads. It is the meaning hidden, the gain of spirituality from the rituals which needs to be focused on. So that is the basis of the Upanishad. The continued relevance of ritual but with shifted emphasis towards attaining knowledge. So the emphasis was not only to please certain god in order to get certain favors, it was to attain spiritual knowledge. The emphasis of sacrifices according to Upanishad was not merely a favor, merely asking a favor from the god. It was not like that. It was to attain a shifted emphasis towards attaining spiritual knowledge. Examples of reinterpretations of rituals from Brihadaranyaka Upanishads. So from Brihadaranyaka Upanishads we find reinterpretation of rituals. Thus Upanishads merely does not focus on the rituals of sacrifices, it focuses on attaining spiritual knowledge through the rituals. Now we will go through the popular beliefs and practices in the Vedic text. What are the popular beliefs we find in the Vedic text? The Brahmanas as manuals for sacrificial priests and the Upanishads as texts for esoteric knowledge. The Brahmanas were extension of the Vedas where details are given about how a sacrificial rituals are to be performed, and it is mainly followed by the priest while conducting a sacrificial rituals. And the Upanishads are text for esoteric knowledge. They contain the spiritual knowledge, or they contain the ways to get the spiritual knowledge and connect with the Brahman for some highly knowledgeable people. The Atharva Veda's reflection on popular beliefs with charms and spells for practical concerns. The Atharva Veda, which is the most recent Veda and last of the Vedas, it contains spells and charms which get you different practical benefits. Distinction between esoteric and exoteric aspects of the Vedic literature. So we will have to know that there are certain portions of the Vedic literature which is reserved for people with certain kind of knowledge. It is not for the general public. And also there are certain aspects of Vedic literature which is for everyone, which is entirely for the general public, and thus there is a distinction made between the esoteric and exoteric aspects of the Vedic literature. The shift from ritual practice to moral and ethical knowledge in the Upanishads. In the Upanishads we get a shift of sacrificial rituals from merely performing rituals based on material things in order to satisfy certain gods to get certain favors into a quest for getting ethical and spiritual knowledge. The integration of various philosophical ideas from different cultural and intellectual traditions in the Upanishads. So we find different philosophical ideas in the Upanishads which has formed the intellectual basis of Indian subcontinent since thousands of years. Now Upanishadanic quest for the ultimate reality. What is the ultimate reality and how does Upanishad help in getting it? The explanation of Upanishadanic thought as an inquiry into nature of ultimate reality beyond the physical world. So the Upanishadic thought is an inquiry into nature of ultimate reality. What is the basis of the universe, and it transcends to a world which is merely practical. The Upanishads introduce the concepts of karma, rebirth, and cycle of moksha, liberation from the cycle of rebirth. So, karma, as we have explained before, that it is the impact of your deed in your life, and rebirth means your soul will transcend to a different body after you die. And moksha is a philosophy where we consider that once you have attained, once you have become one with the universe, you get liberation from the cycle of rebirth. So you go to a different realm where you are not in the cycle of rebirth anymore. The discussion of principles of meditation and yoga as a means of attaining spiritual knowledge. So meditation is power of concentration towards the universal functionalities, that is the Brahman, and yoga is a very practical practice which has been the basis of physical education in Indian subcontinent since thousands of years. Now, what is the basis of yoga? Why is it done? In order to get the spiritual knowledge, your body will have to be capable of receiving it. Therefore, to prepare your body to attain the strength of your physical form in order to get the spiritual knowledge, that thing is done through yoga. And yoga prepares you to receive the spiritual knowledge of the universe. The Upanishadic endeavor to understand the Brahman, the all-encompassing reality, and the Atman, the individual self. So, Upanishadic quest is actually a thing to understand the interconnectedness between the Brahman and the Atman. The challenge of imparting and grasping the profound knowledge of the Upanishads, which is often employed in paradoxes and analogies. So to understand the concept of Brahman and Atman and how they are interrelated, it is not a thing to understand at all. It is a thing to experience, and very few souls in the world have probably got to experience it. Therefore, it is very difficult to explain and very difficult to understand. And that has been told in the Upanishads by the help of different paradoxes and analogies. Now, philosophical dialogues of the Upanishads. What are the philosophies of the Upanishads and how are they presented? The method of instruction in the Upanishad is dialogue, debate, and direct transmission from teacher to student. So, there will be a guru, which is also the form of a teacher. Now, this guru or teacher is not merely a teacher of studies, it is a teacher of life. So guru is a teacher of life who will guide you towards your life so that you stay in a good path and get the spiritual knowledge which you deserve. And this method of instruction in the Upanishad is through the form of dialogue and debate. As we have said before, the religion of the Vedic times is very much liberal and is based on the philosophy that we have the right to question our principles and to question our gods. That is the beauty of Vedic religion, and thus through different kind of debate we get insights into different kind of spiritual knowledges. The oldest Upanishads like the Brihadaranyaka and Chandogya are in prose form and discuss the connections between cosmos and the individual. So these are in prose forms, the oldest Upanishads, and they concentrate on discussing the connection between the cosmos, which is the Brahman, and the individual, which is the Atman. The later Upanishads, which are in metrical form, delve into complex philosophical debates. So the later Upanishad focuses on different kind of question answer process in order to understand the relationship between Brahman and Atman. The Upanishads use the narrative to explore and explain the relationship between Atman and Brahman. The Kena Upanishads assertion that even gods struggle to understand the Brahman, highlighting the concept's complexity. So, Brahman is a very complex concept which is beyond the realm of even the gods. So, gods also struggle to understand the concept of Brahman, and thus we can understand that we have the right to question our principles, and the Vedic text have given us the liberty to do different kind of debates and questioning process in order to understand the knowledge of the universe. Next, we need to understand how is Atman described in the Upanishads. Atman, as we know, is the individual self, and diverse explanation of Atman has been given in the Upanishads, such as the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad's analogy of the Atman as the knowing subject. In Brihadaranyaka Upanishads, Atman is projected as an entity that receives knowledge. Receiver of knowledge is the Atman as described in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. The Chandogya Upanishad's description of Atman as smaller than a grain of rice yet larger than earth, signifying its omnipresence and subtlety. So the Atman is a very small entity, but with proper kind of nurture and spiritual knowledge, it can be larger than the planet. Therefore, it is very much omnipresence and also very much subtle. The Shveteshvatara Upanishad's discussion on Maya and its relation to Brahman and Ishvara, God. So, Maya means desire, illusion, or dreams. Therefore, the Shveteshvara Upanishad has focused on the relationship of Maya with that of the Brahman and Ishvara, God. The Upanishadanic focus on the self's journey through samsara, which means cycle of birth and death, and significance of self-realization. So, the Upanishads focus on how a person is born and goes through the cycle of life. Sansar means cycle of life. Therefore, we will have to be born and then go through the cycle of life, and through that process we gain the knowledge of self-realization. That is the basis of Upanishadanic thought. The philosophical and practical implications of understanding the Atman for attaining moksha. So, to attain moksha or to be liberated from the cycle of birth and rebirth, we need to understand the philosophical and practical implications of this spiritual knowledge that we can get through the nurturing of oneself and being connected with the Brahman. Now, what is Brahman? The ultimate reality. The Upanishadanic description of Brahman as eternal, imperishable reality that pervades the universe. It is basically the energy throughout the universe, the energy with which everything runs. According to Upanishads, Brahman is an imperishable reality. It is a reality which is the only real thing, and everything else is an illusion, and that reality pervades throughout the universe. Exploration of Brahman as a source of all existence, sustenance, and dissolution. So everything that is being created is through the energy of Brahman, the power of Brahman. Everything that is existing is also through the power of Brahman, and everything which will be destroyed will also be destroyed because of the Brahman. So it is the ultimate reality as has been described in the Upanishads. The challenge in conceptualizing the Brahman due to its vast and abstract nature. So Brahman is very much abstract, yet it is very much practical. It is very much not existing, yet it is existing everywhere. Therefore, there is a challenge of conceptualizing or understanding the Brahman. The Mundaka Upanishads analogy comparing Brahman to a spider's web, suggesting the creation and maintenance of the universe. The Mundaka Upanishads has compared the Brahman with a spider's web, suggesting the fact that it is the structure which is holding the universe together. All forms of existence, creation and destruction happens through that structure only. The Shvetashvatara Upanishads assertion that realization of Brahman leads to liberation. So once you understand or once you realize the spiritual knowledge of Brahman, you will be liberated from your practical being and you will transcend into a different realm where you become one with the Brahman. Now, interplay of Atman and Brahman. How are these two related? The Upanishads approached to the relationship between the self and the universal essence. So Upanishad had tried to understand the interplay or the relationship between the universal essence and one's individual self. The realization that Atman and Brahman are not separate entities but are essentially one, leading to a profound understanding of existence. So Atman and Brahman are interrelated in such a way that they are one single entity, and thus we get a profound understanding of our own existence. The Brihadaranyaka Upanishads dialogues that emphasize the unity of Atman and Brahman. So the Brihadaranyaka Upanishads has different kind of debates and dialogues which try to make us understand that there is unification between Brahman and Atman. The Taittiriya Upanishads exploration of Brahman as a blissful essence behind all layers of existence. So it is the ultimate reality, and you go to that reality when you are liberated. So when you attain the ultimate spiritual knowledge, you become liberated and you transcend into the realm of Brahman. You become one with the Brahman. The Katha Upanishads narrative that underscores the importance of recognizing the Atman within to achieve internal peace. So the Katha Upanishad focuses on the theory that we are also a part of universe. Therefore, a part of Brahman resides within our own. Thus, we need to understand our own Atman in order to achieve eternal peace. Now, Upanishadic influence on later Vedic thought. What is the influence of the Upanishad in formation of the Vedic thought, in formation of the later Vedic culture? How did Upanishad play an important role? The Upanishads reshaping of Vedic thought from ritualistic practices to philosophical inquiry. The Upanishads provide a transitional aspect of the Vedic culture where we find people transiting from mere ritualistic practices into philosophical and spiritual knowledge. The shift towards understanding and realizing Brahman as the key to liberation. So once you understand the real knowledge or the only reality of the universe, you get liberated from the cycle of rebirth, and that is the influence of Upanishadic thought. The impact of Upanishadic teachings on development of later Hindu philosophy. So all the later Hindu philosophies and the spiritual aspect of Hindu religion is based on the thought from the Upanishads, that is the interplay between the Brahman and Atman and how it is interconnected in order to get the ultimate spiritual knowledge. The integration of Upanishadic concepts into Bhagavad Gita and other Hindu scriptures. This concept have been integrated into the Gita and many other Hindu scriptures also. The enduring legacy of the Upanishads in shaping the spiritual discourse in India. So, India is a spiritual land. We may not have the material resources like many other rich portions of the world, but we are rich in spirituality, and that richness have been given. That richness is an effect of Upanishadic and Vedic thought on the Indian culture. Now, conclusion and legacy. Here we will go through a summary of whatever we have discussed. Integration of ritual and philosophy. The presentation highlighted the evolution of Vedic practices from ritual centric to philosophical introspection, signifying a major shift in religious and spiritual landscape of the later Vedic period. So, in the later Vedic period, we transcend from ritual centric practices to gaining or a strive towards attaining spiritual knowledge. We observe the critical importance of sacrifices in the Vedic culture as prescribed in the Brahmanas and how they were believed to sustain the cosmic order. Over time, these rituals became more symbolic, reflecting deeper quest for understanding the universe. So every ritual has a specific significance. If we go through the Brahmanas and relate it with the Upanishadic thought, then we will understand the significance of each and every protocol which is followed during the ritual. The Upanishads marked a transformative era, steering the Vedic thought towards the pursuit of ultimate truths, challenging the primacy of physical rituals and emphasizing knowledge and internal realization. So, the Upanishads focus on realization of spiritual knowledge within the universe. The profound concepts introduced by the Upanishads, such as karma, samsara, moksha, continue to be foundational to Hindu philosophy and have influenced various schools of thought and spiritual practices throughout the history. The Upanishadic teachings, with their rich dialogues and metaphysical inquiries, remain vital to understanding the essence of Hindu spirituality and its diverse manifestations in contemporary practices and belief system. So the Upanishads focus on influencing the contemporary belief system of Hinduism in modern age also. So that was all about the philosophy of the later Vedic times and how the rituals and Upanishads have helped in the formation of a spiritual knowledge in India which is still thriving in modern times. The concept of Brahman and Atman is a very difficult and complex thing to explain, but I have tried my best, and people who have understood the concept of Brahman and Atman is in a different realm, so as we believe from the Upanishads. Therefore it was a very difficult concept to explain. I have tried my best, hope you like it, and please show your support so that I can bring brighter contents in future. Thank you so much.